Good morning. Welcome to the January 19th Board of Wright County Commissioners. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
All right. The minutes from January 5th, 2021. Does anybody have anything to change in there or update?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I noticed that in the regional library that I think the names are switched. I believe it should be Commissioner Catchmark is the delegate and Commissioner Vetch is the alternate.
Okay.
That's what I had in my notes for what it's worth.
Okay. So we'll get that changed on the minutes.
All right.
Is there anything else
I'll make the motion to approve then
with
I'll
that,
second that.
with that adjustment?
with that.
All right. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. All right. Review and approval of agenda. Is there anything that we need to add to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. The consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to have pulled from the consent agenda? All right.
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Under the IT, the item regarding appointing and grading a senior IT developer position.
You'd like that pulled?
Yes, just a couple questions just for clarification at the appropriate time.
Okay. And I would like to have the monthly finance report for December pulled also for a little bit of discussion. All right, is there anything else?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion with the removal of item D3 and the, D4, D4 and for F2, approve the consent agenda with the removal of those two items.
All right, any other discussions?
Oh,
That's a motion.
I'll second that then.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Catchmark.
Mr. Chairman, should we go item D3 first, or D4 first before F2, but,
Well, we're going to hold off on that one.
okay.
Okay, just regarding the IT, the senior developer, Mr. Fomby here. Thank you, Mr. Fomby.
Present.
Just, again, helping out with trying to hear a little bit on where you're at with your department. I'm assuming you're going to be hiring the one of three people it looks like you have approved for 2021. And
Yes, sir. I actually decided to have a little gumption, and I requested, I think, 9 or 11 people, but I was told I could have 3 players to be named later. I once had a gentleman tell me that when dealing with illnesses, sometimes they'll throw a little bit of medicine at it, see what happens, and then readjust. IT is kind of the same way. We'll take care of a log jam in this part of the river, and we find out that we've got another log jam further down. So we have made some recent changes that have been incredibly successful thus far. We've changed some positions around. We now have a dedicated ECM specialist and a dedicated O365 specialist, which has revealed, once we remove some log jams, that we have a further one downstream in our developmental team. If developers are, the best way to describe them, infrastructure is like the framers of the house, developers are like your drywallers, your electricians, your plumbers, move things around. So what we need to beef up our development side of the house. So right now what we're looking for is a senior developer, a certain higher level skill set that can come in and help us with a lot of the things that we're doing. For example, developers are the ones that take care of the online scheduling, that keep things running with the motor vehicles, with all the scheduling that goes on here, things of that nature. They run the website. So we're looking to increase our skill set there with a certain senior level, and then we're going to go forward from that point. That's what we're ultimately looking for.
And thank you. In my experience firsthand coming into this new with your group has been great, and you've said that you're kind of small shop and you have to wait for certain people to come back to work from different things. So I know you have a lot going on there.
Very specialized, because yes.
Just in the interest of kind of being consistent, an example, Health and Human Services did a very lengthy description of their request for the position that they had, and that was really helpful. So I'm just wanted to hear a little more from you besides, you know, that we're requesting one of 3, and just so I got a better understanding of where it's coming from. So
If you're open to the idea, I'm not limited to 3. I could go 4 or 5 if you're so inclined.
Commissioner
okay,
Ketchmark?
thank you.
A little bit of difference between HHS is replacing a person. This one is being sent to the Personnel Committee for even further discussions. And that's, in those situations, that's where more information will be coming out. And
Recommendation.
the recommendations, yeah. So since you need to get your feet wet, I'm going to let you take the next Personnel Committee on January 27th so that you'll get your feet wet and learn more about it.
And we actually have the full job description already written, but we generally won't send it off to Baker Tilly for scoring until it's approved, since they charge us for it. So we want to make sure it's approved by the board before we spend money.
Okay,
That date work for you?
it does. What's time?
Next Wednesday?
Tuesday 9.
What's the time?
9 o'clock. It's on the,
27th at
it's
9.
Okay,
on the consent agenda. So did you get your questions answered?
yes,
All
thank
right,
you.
then I entertain a motion for this to get sent to the Personnel Committee.
I'll entertain a motion to send the senior IT position on to the Personnel Committee.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Matthew. Regarding the one that I pulled, Bob, can I get you? Oh, Heather, you are here.
I'm the one.
Okay. Since we have 2 new commissioners, and the way our system is, it's very confusing. What I would like, and instead of trying to hash it over today, is to maybe have a little more educational experience for our new commissioners regarding this sort of stuff. Maybe next week a little bit, the next board meeting or something. Commissioner Ketchmark, you had some specific questions.
I did. Thanks for coming in and being available today. So here's what we were faced with. Friday afternoon, 132-page budget comes out, and my first, year looking at that budget. So the people they want accountability, fiscal responsibility. I'm going through making marks of points. Not that anyone did anything wrong necessarily, but things that maybe we'll looking forward with managing a budget, because that's what part of what commissioners do, is that maybe some things have to be adjusted as soon as this budget for some things. So because it could be time consuming with 5 commissioners and we all might have our own inquiries, I'm wondering if we could have the office heads available, put them on notice that we're going to be inquiring, and maybe just a sentence or 2 is going to clear this up. Not that I need a page report ran off of for every concern, but maybe this is something for a workshop or something else, kind of a standalone item, because I don't want to rush through it and along with another agenda with a lot of other things. So it doesn't sound like it's an emergency to run this through and pass it and all that right away.
So this report that I submit, this is what other counties do. they submit monthly reports, I understand you have specific concerns, and I'm certainly willing to like entertain that and have a committee report, but this is what should be coming to the board each month, is a synopsis of where we're at, where the money is. This is, I've taken this from other counties, so it was just trying to make the leap here. But I agree, maybe you want to have some education on some of the reports.
Well,
Mr. Chair?
it's a starting point. I mean, I have some specific things for certain office heads to say, okay, why are we 194% over budget on this item last year?
Well, that's a discussion you should have with department heads, because Heather's not going to be able to answer that
No,
question.
and that's what I brought up, is having office heads available, not just having a private summit in somebody's office, because the public wants to be, hold everyone accountable and hear what the answers are.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Vetch?
I think for the next workshop, February, Mr. Kelly, let's have a county finance and budgeting 101. I think, because there's a lot of things to answer, and a lot of things that are over budget or just the way they come in, like you might be the first month of the year, but you might be already at 90% of expenditures because they bill you the whole year right up front. So there's a lot of things, just depending on the timing of the year. And sometimes that's the way even like your revenues can be. You can be at 100% of your revenues the first month of the year because they fronted you the grant right away. And we can kind of talk through some of those finances at the next workshop in February.
That's right.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this
That
last
was
year,
with WCD all the time.
yeah, with this last year too, with the COVID-19, there were things that got over budget because it was unexpected, or 2020, I mean, so.
So kind of just a 101 on finances, like we're just supposed to provide you with the report, kind of this is where we see we're at, and then you go work with the department heads or we can answer your questions. I mean, this is kind of how it's supposed to flow in other counties. And we're trying to get to that transparency point, but we're taking baby steps.
Yeah, I like this. Thank
And
you.
Mr. Chair, and I think it'll help Commissioner Catchmark, if we go through this education with it, because a lot of these things, when I have citizens that have concerns about budgetary questions and overages, once you have this 101, you're able to go directly to the department head and then be able to answer that question just yourself internally and not having to do it necessarily, because some of these individual one-off questions don't necessarily have to be done in this forum. It's more of a question, not so much of a need to change policy.
Great.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Wider?
I think it's a very good idea, the month-to-month where you're at. I think this will help us tremendously when it comes to budget time, so that we understand it a little bit more and know where we're at. So that maybe some departments have to go up, some not so much, you know, whatever. But thank you, I appreciate a month-to-month report.
Okay, so we'll put this on for the workshop in February.
Mr. Chair, but I'm going to make a motion to approve the report or acknowledge the report for the December.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Is that just acknowledging, not necessarily approving?
Well, you're not, you're acknowledging that it was presented, that you were given the financial information from December.
And this is from last year, so this is,
The expenditures have already been approved. It's, at this point, you're just acknowledging that the fund balances, that you were given that information.
Okay, thank you.
so do I have a second?
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Catchmark. Is there any further discussion? So I would suggest that you touch with Heather, both the new commissioners. If there's specific things that you want to make sure that gets covered, remember that this is last year's budget. So all we're going to do is kind of help you understand how this all works out. Again, the way our current software is, it's kind of confusing. So Heather has put together some other sheets to make life simpler, and with the new ERP system, Heather's guaranteed life's going to be 100% better.
I don't know if I said 100%, but it's gonna
All right,
be
99.9% better.
Yeah, and we are open, if there's other, like, reports that you guys want added or changed, we're open. This was just a starting point. This is our first month starting something new.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I like it. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, any other further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, our new county attorney, Mr. Brian Lutz. We're a little late, we're a little past 9:02.
It's okay, we're here for the duration she rode with me, so we're
No, okay. So she's stuck here.
Exactly, so. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. It's my pleasure to welcome our newest attorney, Ashley Lissman, to Wright County and to the Wright County Attorney's Office. Ashley comes to us from nearby Cold Spring, and she went to Rocori High School. She attended college at Minnesota Mankato and law school at the University of St. Thomas. She came to my office with some experience. She worked at the Minneapolis City Attorney's Office, obviously a high-volume area, and immediately before joining us, she was with the Blue Earth County Attorney's Office, prosecuting misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors and traffic matters. I've assigned her to our gross misdemeanor traffic division, along with Tamara Carvel and Jennifer Buskey. I've had the opportunity to see her in court, and she does have a very good presence, and confirm that I made a good selection for her to be my newest county attorney. So it's my pleasure to welcome Ashley Lissman to Wright County.
Good, welcome.
And technically, although she barely met Tom, she's replacing Tom, or at least his body in the office. Big shoes to fill.
I thought you replaced Tom, and then she's kind of replacing you in a way.
Yeah.
You could look at it that way as well.
She'll take chief criminal.
You probably get a parking spot in the garage too.
No underground parking out there. So.
No,
Oh,
great.
So what made you decide to come to the Wright County?
Location. It's closer to family, which, as you said, I'm from St. Cloud, originally from Cold Spring, but my mom still lives in St. Cloud, so the location's a lot better, and I really like the office, and great meeting Brian, so.
Yeah.
The new office.
And
And then, and the way Brian says, you scare those people in court so that they plead guilty right away?
No.
We're very happy to have you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Wright County. Now all you got to do is move into the Wright County.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rasmussen, County Assessor. I don't see him here, so you must be online. Tony?
He is, yes.
I am, Mr. Chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we have to decide on a date and time for the County Board of Equalization and to have that meeting by appointment. Along with that, I ask that we have property owners that plan to appeal at the County Board of Equalization make an appointment at least 1 week before the meeting's held, so we have time to review the property and prepare a report if necessary. I want to thank Commissioners Betch and Dahlheiden for taking the training to make sure that we have a trained member on board. I usually meet with you guys in February to set this time up, but since we have two commissioners, new commissioners, I wanted to take the time to let them know that this training is still available until February 1st, 5 p.m. They've got it there. It's a course that you take online, and I'd highly recommend it. This is an important meeting. If the board fails to have a trained member or a quorum, the appeals move on to the Commissioner of Revenue at a cost of $500 per parcel, per appeal, charged to the county per state statute. That's all I have. Any questions?
You had a suggested date, if I remember correctly?
Suggested date, I think I put it in the packet of June 14th. You have to have it after the second Friday in June. And that's kind of when we've had this meeting for the past decade. As far as I know, it's that Monday that follows that second Friday. And That way, if we have any appeals that go on to Tuesday, it seems to have worked out, so. 4 o'clock, June 14th, if that works for you guys. And we also have to clarify that it is by appointment only.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set the Board of Equalization for June 14th at 4 o'clock by appointment only.
I will second.
I'd also like to reiterate that appeals need to be made to our office 1 week before that meeting for us to plan or prepare a report if we have to bring to you guys.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewson. Any discussions? Tony, the other reason we need to get this out there is because it has to be sent out with the notices, also the dates and all the information, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, our office sends out notices of valuation classification annually to all property owners. That's usually in March or April. Property owners have the right to appeal that value and class of their property.
Okay.
They can do it informally with the assessor, or go the formal option. At that point, you go to the local board review or open book meeting. And at that point, if the person is unsatisfied with the result of the decision made at that local or open book option, they can then appeal to the County Board of Equalization. But for sure, they have to attend the local board. If they're in an open book jurisdiction, they can go directly to the County Board of Equalization.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, is Mr. Kelly a contact person to line us up with the training that we could take by February 1st?
Sure. Yeah, I could send that out. I'll reach out to Tony and get it and send it
Okay.
your way.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the Department of Revenue website, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, if you just go to the Department of Revenue website, under
And
education, I
I heard you guys talking about meeting in a workshop. If you want to know more about what the county assessor's office does, I'd be more than open to coming to a workshop to explain what it is our office is about and give you a better idea of what it is that we do.
Yeah, the online class takes what, 30, 40 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, if I was able to do it, it can't be that difficult.
How long did it take?
I don't really remember anymore.
Okay.
I think it was like a couple of hours or something.
Yeah, I think it is a couple hours. It's been a while since I've been at the training, but it gives you a good overview of what that county board and what the local boards are about, and it'll just prepare you for the meeting.
And then you have to take a test. All right, any other discussions? Hearing none. Setting the Board of Equalizations for June 14th at 4 o'clock with appointments required. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you,
Thank you
Tony.
very much. Thank you.
Dr. Matthijs, our Parks and Recreation. And it's just an honorary title, he's not a doctor.
I was gonna say doctor.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Morning.
Couple order of businesses we're looking at taking care of. Requesting that you adopt 2 separate resolutions related to a grant application through the Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP, for the Crow River Regional Trail Phase 2. For the new commissioners, back in October, I believe, I brought 4 grant possibilities to the county board for their acceptance for us to go after. This was one of them. TAP funds are transportation money through the Federal Transportation Highway Administration for alternative modes of transportation. The Crow River Regional Trail is planned in 2000, was part of our 2011 countywide regional trail and bikeway plan. We did a master plan a few years back that was adopted by the county board, was also approved by the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission as a regional facility. It's a project between us, Three Rivers Parks, 9 municipalities in Carver County. Phase 1 is set to complete this year in Wright County, which will go south of Delano down to Carver County, Hennepin County line. Carver County will take that from that point, that terminus, down to the Loose Line Trail, which will connect down to Watertown. And then on our north side of that Phase 1, it goes into Lake Rebecca Park, which is Three Rivers. They'll have their trail completed up to Highway 55 but east of Rockford. And Phase 2 will work with Three Rivers to cross the Crow River again in Rockford, and then go from Rockford to Hanover in Phase 2. This is only our section that we're applying for funds, and we do have money in our CIP program earmarked for Phase 2 here in the future. Our goal would be to secure TAP funds, which are federal funds, and then match some of those federal funds with state grants through the Legacy program in the future. This is 5 years out. Funding for TAP funds are 5 years away. So if we were fortunate to get recommended for funding, this project wouldn't happen until 2026.
Okay.
And the first resolution is a sponsorship agency resolution, which basically says that Wright County is acting as a sponsor for the grant. The second is that if awarded the grant and the project goes through, is that we are committing to maintenance of that facility for its lifetime, which is typically 20 years, but you know, you're not going to take it out in 20 years, so.
Commissioner Retch?
No, I was just going to make a motion to adopt the resolution to sponsorship agency for the grant application for transportation, or, sorry, not, yeah, for the transportation alternatives.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wetter?
I have a question for Mark.
Yes, ma'am.
Second first.
Yeah, I'd like to have a second first.
Okay,
for
I'm sorry, I'll
discussion.
second then,
Okay.
so I can ask a question.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Go ahead.
When you have to do maintenance on these trails, how long before they need maintenance?
Well, typically, maintenance will include any, like mowing of the edges, stuff like that. But the big maintenance will be crack sealing, which, and seal coating. And we usually try in our pavement management plan to do a crack seal every 5 years and a seal coat like every 7. And seal coat is putting oil down.
Okay, another question. Driving around like in Hennepin County, sorry to say, you see these lines down the middle.
Of the trails?
Yeah, of the trails.
Yep.
Do you guys do that or not?
We have.
And what's really the purpose when you don't see a whole lot of people on the trail?
Good point,
You know.
Commissioner Wetter. We do not line our trails right now in Wright County. We don't see the user conflict at this time, where we want to try to keep people on one side going each direction, or walkers on one side, bikers on the other. So we do not typically line our trails right now. Montissippi Park this summer, it came close to wanting to line those trails up in Montissippi Park just for around corners and stuff, because we're having some, but we don't plan on lining them.
And another question, do you do snow removal or do you leave them?
We do snow removal in, within some of our park boundaries on paved trails at Seagull, Clearwater, Pleasant, Montissippi for winter walking. These trails, these corridor trails, we do not do snow removal. Like the County Road 12 trail is actually part of the Wright County Snowmobile Association's trail system. So they'll groom that for us in the winter. No traction devices on that trail, please. 17 is also have a small section. We will enter maintenance agreements with municipalities if they want to take part of our trail that's in their community and remove the snow for winter walking, but we don't actually do that on the corridor trails.
Okay, that's all, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wetter.
Any other questions? Hearing none, All those in favor,
Resolution.
it's a resolution. Commissioner Ketchmark?
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous. Second item.
Second resolution would be the maintenance
Yeah,
one.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion for a resolution agreeing to the maintained facility.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Ketchmark?
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous.
Second order of business is requesting for you to adopt a resolution authorizing myself, the Park and Recreation Director, to sign and enter into agreement with the Department of Natural Resources related to the reconstruction of the fishing pier at Schroeder County Park. We have a variety of fishing piers out there. All of them are in agreement with the DNR, so DNR provided us the fishing pier to start with. We maintain that fishing pier for its life. Deem it needs reconstruction, frames, floats, timber. They supply all the materials, we supply all the labor to redo those fishing piers. The last one we did was last year at Mud Lake. Year before that, we did BB. 2 years before that, we did Collinwood. So DNR supplies all the materials, we do the labor in our shop, and then we maintain it throughout. So this fishing pier has been in Wright County for, a long time. I believe 1986 was when we first put the pier in at Schroeder Park, and this will be the second time in my tenure here that we have rebuilt it.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the Parks and Recreation Director to sign and enter into an agreement with the Minnesota Department of Resources related to the reconstruction of the fishing pier at Schroeder County Park.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Wetter?
I've got a few questions. How large will this fishing pier be?
Fishing pier is the same size. I believe it's a 90-foot pier.
90 foot? I have a lot of experience with the DNR after being on the SWCD for 18 years, and I'm very distrustful of the DNR.
Oh.
What I don't like in this agreement is the fact that the DNR is subject to whether they have funds or not. So the county could get stuck
Oh,
for a lot of repairs, whatever. And I guess that's one thing that I just want to state, that I have a big distrust for the DNR.
Commissioner Wetter, I do have a very good working relationship with Trails and Waterways Division, which is a
Okay.
different division than you probably work with when you're with Soil and Water Conservation. I've already seen the encumbrance of funds for the materials.
Okay,
So the materials, past this resolution, I bet you we have the materials in our shop within a week.
how about though if
They have
down
the-
the line you need some maintenance on it though? And
I've never had a problem with the people up in Sauk Rapids that I work with. As far as
Okay.
if I needed a float, they say come up and get them.
Okay,
I've never had that issue.
okay, that's good
Not
to
saying that
hear.
leadership can't change, but been very fortunate with Sauk Rapids Trails and Waterways Division with DNR. That Tim Edgerton has been there a number of years. We've had a great working relationship with our accesses in there.
Okay, well, thank you.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
Yes, thanks, Mark. So I got a question about the proposal and the materials that the DNR is gonna provide. It said lumber, flotation, and it said everything short of hardware. So does that mean nuts and bolts, or is there a lot of iron expense that we don't know about that goes into this? It seems like,
We'll have about $300 worth of nuts and bolts, and then we'll have a little bit of our wire from our wire feed welder where we tack the frames back together.
No.
okay, because that's kind of vague, hardware. What, they're gonna provide all these things except a bag
Yeah.
of hardware potentially. And so I just want to make sure there wasn't anything that we weren't addressing or thinking about on a bigger
Yeah,
order
you're
than that.
correct. Well, there'll be some drill bits, and then the screws to fasten the deck boards down to the frame.
Okay,
It'd be about $300.
thank you.
We haven't had a motion yet on this one, have we?
Yes,
we
I
did.
did make a
Yes, we
motion,
did.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
And I seconded.
And these never get used, right?
Yeah, right.
We do all this work and nobody ever uses them, right?
That's,
They're great duck blinds.
Now, we also have some programs, fishing with kids or something to that effect that use these also, right?
Yes. We do a joint program with Min Trout. They use some of our fishing piers. Buffalo's Fishing for Life program, Brad Danielson's program. They go out and use it at Beebe Lake. They actually sponsored a bench out there at Beebe Lake, so
And they've always been,
it gives people an opportunity that shore fish, that don't have boats and stuff, an opportunity to get out and fish. They get used pretty heavily.
and when, excuse me, and when they do happen, those are normally always filled up and they're heavily used.
Well, we had to sign them for COVID.
Okay. Any other discussions? Hearing none, resolution, Commissioner Ketchmark.
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Resolution carries.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Administrator Kelly, I forgot to ask you, but I would like you to take the committee of the whole meeting minutes of July 7th, or excuse me, January 7th. Trying to push our,
Really?
trying to push our year ahead right away, trying to get to the good part of the summer.
All right, just a second, let me pull it up here.
Yeah, I apologize for not warning you ahead of time. I just wanted to see how you worked under pressure.
Fair enough. So we had our committee of the whole on January 7th. We had all commissioners in attendance as well as a number of staff from several departments, both in person and virtually. So the purpose of the meeting was to review the commissioner's handbook and basically go over it for two purposes: to help explain the various roles and the hats that commissioners have to wear in their role as county commissioner, in addition to make any changes that we thought needed to be identified. So we kind of started off by going over the mission, vision, and key capabilities that we'd identified through the past year's strategic planning, and kind of the process that was used to develop that. Went through the handbook and asked the two new commissioners questions that they may have had and issues and ideas that were brought up and what we could improve areas on. One of the things we did talk about is media and commenting on behalf of the board, and talked a little bit about how the AMC new elected official training, which is coming up the end of this week, will be beneficial. So we'll make a few more changes to that and bring it back around to the board. So just a high-level summary there.
Thank you. Does anybody have anything to add to that at all? None, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Houston,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Wetter. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Lee. Commissioner Vetch, County Board Workshop of January 12th.
All right, so last week on Tuesday, we convened as a workshop. The first item for discussion was the Minnesota Inter-Counties Association. Myself, as well as Administrator Kelly, were reached out by members of the association with their expressive interest of us joining their group. Their group is, if I remember correctly, is what, 14 counties?
I believe that's correct.
14
yeah.
counties.
It's about 14.
Their executive director, Matt Mossman, presented to us via Teams with their kind of assets that they offer to their memberships. So it was a good discussion that we had. He kind of presented some of their initiatives that they've been working on, and kind of the number, we talked about the number of department heads that have already had interaction or membership as an individual basis. So with that information, we kind of came with a recommendation to gather more information from MICA so the board can compare MICA and AMC apples to apples before they decide to join MICA and to keep or not to keep their membership with AMC. So more information to come. This will be another discussion at a future meeting. So we had another discussion as our typical standing item is scheduling meetings as necessary at workshops. The one item that we discussed was getting on the calendar a Economic Development Authority prospective date. We're looking to hold that sometime later this month or early February. So there will be a recommendation that there will be no separate meeting held regarding the Economic Development Authority. However, a date has not yet been determined, so hopefully we'll be setting a date with that within the next 7 days.
Later on
Or this meeting here today. Now that I've recorded the next item up. Third item at the workshop was an item that I put on there myself, was the emergency ordinance review for solar farms. So we've had a number of kind of debates regarding the current solar ordinance, which has been enacted for the past 6 years. It has become apparent that we need to maybe take a pause. I'm requesting that we would have a discussion about a moratorium so we can take time to review the current ordinance and make sure that the language in there has the proper accommodations going forward. So the recommendation was to have Attorney Chrysler publish the legal notice at the end of this week, which was last week, January 15th, which would meet the 10-day requirement for the board to have a public hearing on January 26th regarding a moratorium on solar farms, so we can study the issue and make sure that the current language within the ordinance meets the needs of the county. The fourth item was the discussion of the county ditches and the review of buffer grant balances. We have a current buffer grant balance just north of about $120,000. We had a discussion from the Ag and Drainage Coordinator, Matt Detchen, and the need for a tile locator. He came before the board to present the assets of purchasing such pieces of equipment and the potential savings to the benefited landowners by purchasing such equipment. So the recommendation was the board members agreed to moving forward with the purchase of a Maverick tile locator for ditch projects. It was also recommended that they schedule a meeting to update commissioners regarding the ditches in the county. The fifth item on the workshop was the review and discussion of CARES Act funding applications and process. So coming into that week, just last week we opened up, or no, 2 weeks now, the applications have been live. So we had our first review last week on Wednesday of applications. The applications are starting to come in. We currently had, as of last week, around 16 business applications that have been fully vetted or have all their information in. There is a great number of about 30 or 40 more that still have missing information that we're contacting them to get a complete application in. We informed the board of the timeline. The timeline is that we will be ending applications on January 29th and hoping to have all funds dispersed by February 16th. The sixth item on the workshop was the discussion of a resolution to declare Wright County has adequate resources to handle COVID-19. The board, when they took the oath, there was a sworn to uphold the Constitution of Minnesota. So we had a discussion about a resolution that was put forward to the county board regarding, I guess I'm trying to look for the right words, what you call that resolution. Maybe, Mr. Chair.
Oh, it kind of went against what our oath was, oath of the office.
Yeah, it was kind of more of a resolution stating that we have all of our own resources and we don't need any state or federal help whatsoever. Kind of saying that we're a standalone county. We do not need to upheed to the state and federal laws, that we're just a constitutional county. That debate and discussion would put Wright County very vulnerable. Right now, 50% of the funding that Wright County gets is state and federal funds, and doing so would state that we would have to come up with that other, you put yourself at risk of losing that 50% of those funds that the county takes in right now by passing such a resolution. So the recommendation that the board is in consensus that they would not support such a resolution, as it would be against their oath of office, as well as could hold county taxpayers at a large liability. With that, Mr. Chair, there was a large discussion there.
Yes.
I will ask for a motion, or I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the workshop of last week.
And the recommendations?
And the recommendations, yes.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second?
Okay.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Is there any other discussions regarding this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Yeah, Administrator Kelly, schedule Economic Development Authority, EDA meeting.
Yes, sir. As mentioned in the minutes that were just read by Commissioner Vetch, we're looking to schedule that first meeting of the EDA. I've been going back and discussing with Bruce Kimmel from Ellers kind of on timing. We were looking at February 9th, which is a Tuesday, perhaps at 1 in the afternoon, if that would work.
Which, I'm sorry, the Tuesday,
The ninth.
Ninth?
Tuesday, the 9th of
February
February.
you want to do, like, you thinking like a 10:30 or something, or are you thinking afternoon? What do you think?
I was thinking afternoon at 1 o'clock,
Because
not knowing how long the workshop would go that day was my only
I'm just looking
concern.
for uniformity when we start scheduling these EDAs, so I'm kind of thinking is that having it after a workshop, which probably wouldn't be necessarily bad, just hardest thing about it is workshops sometimes can go,
Yeah, that was my
Yeah, that-
concern.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, maybe for the first one, it's better just to have it kind of a little more time planned. So maybe 1 o'clock, so you have maybe if you need 2 hours, then you've got 2 hours, whereas you wouldn't have that at 10:30 probably.
Mr. Chair, and I think I'm inclined to say 1 o'clock too, just because we are going to have 2 members from the public that, on this board as well, that are going to need to be able to attend it, so I think we have a better chance probably of after 12 o'clock of being able to facilitate that for them than we would if we did it at 10 or 11.
Mr. Chair, Administrator Kelly, when do we meet to discuss who is going to be on those 2 members of the public?
Madam Mr. Chair, I think for the bylaws of our resolution, we said that the chair was going to have the delegated authority to appoint 2 members to it with the consensus of the board.
Bring it back next week? Or
Well, I thought we had discussed of having the partnership as one of the members.
Yes, the Wright County, they appoint somebody from their
Yeah.
board to our EDA, and then the other one is an at-large one. Mr.
Yeah,
Chair, for the discussion.
Yeah,
I would-
Mr. Chair, when we get to that point, I do have a recommendation, so.
And Mr. Chair, I have a recommendation. I think right now we could kind of discuss it, and I think because the chair, Commissioner Dahlin as chair will be delegated the authority to make that appointment. And I would encourage Mr. Chair to appoint somebody from an elected official from the city of Buffalo, as a large amount of the discussion in the first year will be with the city of Buffalo on our economic development authority as we enter into agreements with the liquidation of properties within the city of Buffalo, and needing the buy-in from their city council will be very important. Therefore, I think having them as one of the members and then the other member as an appointed member from the Wright County Economic Development Authority would be the second best choice. I would ask that you, Mr. Chair, reach out to the city of Buffalo and the city council for an interested member of their council to be appointed to this Economic Development Authority.
Mr.
Chair?
Houston?
Yeah, and my recommendation would be someone that's on the planning commission, and that's, they're appointed essentially, but I think that the person, is highly qualified, has extensive, a former department head of this county, and I think would have extensive, input and knowledge, so, anyway, that would be mine, so you'd have to, I don't know if you,
I'm open enough to not necessarily having to be elected, but I wanted somebody
Right.
either appointed or elected from the city of
Well,
Buffalo.
I think somebody very committed, and whether you're in the council or you're in planning commission, I think the person that we select is very committed because they're involved now, and I think that's important.
Okay. And I don't know if you had the opportunity to read Administrator Kelly's email yesterday regarding the city's request for a piece of property.
Yes,
So that's going to have to be part of the discussion too.
yeah, Mr. Chair, the city administrator reached out to Administrator Kelly and me, and so And it's something we need to discuss.
Yeah, and that would be probably one of our first things in the EDA that we'll have to talk about.
Yep,
'Cause that's kind of what the whole thing is.
yep.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark.
just as a refresher now, when this board came into being now, the commissioners that are represented is Commissioner Vetch and Delight,
It's
right?
all
five of us.
All of us that are going to be on the EDA board.
Yep.
It'll be
Okay,
seven-
I thought it
seven.
got narrowed down
Yeah,
to,
that-
No, you're taking the business relief grant. The business relief grant program is just myself and Commissioner Dolan, but the Economic Development Authority is all five of us, and then we add two more members for a seven-member board as an Economic Development
I was
Authority.
gonna ask
And it's
the same
separate than the
question.
Wright County Economic Development.
So one of the things, one of the people that we had originally thought about was the partnership, the Wright County Economic Development Partnership, because the two do kind of work together. And then because of what the Commissioner Vetch had said, everything we're going to be dealing with for the first year is disposal of the properties here in Buffalo, that it'd be best to have somebody from the city of Buffalo involved in this discussion, because we want what's best for the city of Buffalo and for the county of Wright on how to dispose of these properties, whether it's turned into something else or destroyed and housing built. You know, we want to have that discussion with them.
And Mr. Chair, ultimately, it will be the city of Buffalo that approves whatever is built here
Yep.
too. So, you know, working with them through the process, I think is important.
Okay, so did,
Do we have a motion on that?
anybody made a
I don't
motion on
think
the
we
actual
did.
date
Chair, I'll
yet?
make a motion for, set the first Economic Development Authority meeting for February 9th at 1 PM. I would ask that a prior board meeting to that Mr. Chair would present his appointed members for this, or his recommendations to the county board at the county board meeting prior to that, which is at the second, is it? Yep.
Oh, put me under the pressure.
Put you under the
Really?
pressure.
Man.
Hey, you want a chair?
All right,
Can I twist your arm with my good arm? No. Kidding.
all right, so you made the motion?
Yep.
Somebody make, did I get a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Houston has a second. Is there any other discussions?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wetter?
how long do you think that meeting might be?
Good question.
Mr.
I'd say
Chair, we
probably a
have to-
couple hours.
Yeah, because we have to set our bylaws. We have to develop our bylaws at that meeting. So I would say at least over an hour for sure, probably
Okay,
closer to
okay.
2.
Okay, then I can make it because I have another meeting at 4.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking.
No, 4 hours.
No, 3 hours.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Well,
Something went really sideways if that's the case.
well,
Alrighty.
sometimes.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Administrator Kelly, resolution setting county board per diems.
Yes, these next two items are a bit of a cleanup, I guess you would call it. When we had adopted the resolutions at the beginning of the year regarding the committees and per diems, we had omitted the Health and Human Services, the Youth Partnership for Health Council. We missed that one, so this is just to make sure that we have those both on the committee list as well as the one that allows for the per diems, so. So I'll need two motions for both the amended resolutions here.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to amend the resolution of setting county board per diems. This is actually just more of a housekeeping issue than it is anything.
It is, yes.
And I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, resolution. Commissioner Ketchmark?
aye,
Aye.
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 Mr. Chair, I'm going to do the second one, approve amended resolution setting the per diems for appointees to the county board, health and human services committees. This is the same thing that youth committee board,
Youth Partnership
youth
for Health.
partnership, yep, so.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Are there any questions? I'm just hoping that they'll be able to meet this year, since it was approved last year and then COVID hit, and
It would be nice.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea to get the youth involved in this for the county. Resolution, Commissioner Ketchmark.
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous. All right, item C, cancellation of one county board meeting in March. There are 5 Tuesdays. Normally, the county board reduces one of the meetings when there are 5 Tuesdays in a month, and we have this in March and in June. I will entertain any particular dates that commissioners would like to cancel, and it's not that we have to, it's just that we normally have.
Mr. Chair, perhaps the March 30th meeting. We do have employee recognition on the 2nd and our workshop on the 9th, so I guess it could be any of the 3, but that's...
Yeah, Commissioners, I had looked at just the 30th of March and then the 29th of June, just as they are the 5th Tuesday. That June date, you're getting closer to the 4th of July. But again, I don't have a strong feeling. The only thing I would caution is I would be hesitant to cancel an early March meeting as we'll be working through the end of the grants. May need board action on that, so, for the new round of business funding.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to cancel March 30th and June 29th county board meetings, as there are 5 Tuesdays in those months.
Can we do both at one time? They're two different
Works for me.
items,
It's
but
just a
I don't know
motion.
why it would be an issue. All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Vats. Do I have a second for removing March 30th and June 29th for county board
Second.
meetings? I'm sorry?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wetter. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Advisory Committee, Advisory Board updates. Administrator Kelly, let's start with you today.
All right. Put me on the spot.
Yep. That's what I do best.
Fair enough, fair enough. So definitely a lot going on. I've been very involved in the ERPs. We're starting to get into what they're calling our CRP 2 sessions, where we're showing off a little bit. And working through some challenges in certain areas, but still targeting to do 2 releases this year in June and in December. HR has been very busy with the beginning of the year, recruitments for the positions that have been approved for the 2021 budget. Our finance director, Lindsay Meyer, will start on the 25th. We have also hired a projects administrator, Elizabeth Carl, she goes by. Will be joining us on February 22nd. Looking forward to having her assistance on this building project related to the EDA and that moving forward as well. So lots going on there. I think that's what I'll have for today.
That's it?
I didn't have time to write down my notes. You caught me on the spot. Normally I get a
He
few
can't go
seconds
through
here.
everything you sent us.
Commissioner Wetter.
Okay, I had one with the Soil and Water Conservation District, and that was mainly reorganization. Chris Euchre will be the chair again. Dwayne Dahlman is the vice chair, and Jeff Burns is the secretary treasurer. Then they had to make some replacements on different committees, replacing the positions I had held previously. They still are searching for someone to replace me. I have suggested a name, and they will go forward and interviewing, I think, that person, which would be somebody in the ag field again. We have put out a request for proposal for the AIS service provider, and that would be due in February. And that's about all they really did do, so.
Okay. Commissioner Veg?
So, a couple different ones. Last week I had an executive committee meeting with the Central Mississippi Regional Planning Partnership.
Can you say that 3 times fast?
Yeah, that's exactly it. We actually had to remove letters from that. So, so we had discussions about, we put or I shouldn't say a pause, we stopped marketing our second round of engagement for a period of time over the holidays, and due to some of the closures from the COVID-19, we are picking up that marketing effort and trying to recreate our second round of engagements, and hopefully being able to close that out by mid-March so we can go forward with closing out this 2030 framework project. So hopefully they'll be moving forward with that, because that'll be determining a lot of our paths forward as an organization, which a lot of you new commissioners may or may not know. This all kind of stemmed from the Highway 25 Coalition, which was working forward to build a bridge. Collectively, unfortunately, there was some roadblocks because we became very apparent that Sherburne and Wright County and Big Lake and Monticello were planning very separately on their land uses, and basically made no place on both sides of the river ideal for either party. So we had to go into more of a regional planning effort to kind of mitigate some of those issues going forward, so that sometime in the future, hopefully sooner rather than later, there will be another river crossing. So with that, then also last week, myself and Commissioner Dahlin, as well as the other members of our Business Relief Grant Committee met. We reviewed, was it about 17 different applications. A number of them we're putting on hold going forward for a variety of various reasons. We did approve I think about half of them, about 8 of the 16 we approved. That'll be coming forward on the consent agenda sometime in the next week, I think next week, for disbursement of funds on that. The ones were very cut and dry, the ones that were approved, so very good information, very much needed businesses needing those funds. With that, one other thing that I want to bring up, I reached out when we had our committee assignments to Terry Lockemeyer. Unfortunately, due to work constraints, she was unable to take that assignment on the Trailblazer board. I'm bringing back to the board now at this time. I would ask that Commissioner Dahlin would fill in, and I hope the board would support that appointment on the Trailblazer Joint Powers Board. I guess I need to have some sort of an action on that, probably, just to formalize that.
Yeah, it would be good.
I wonder, can we do that during this discussions?
You could make a simple motion. I would
Advisory
feel,
committee, advisory board updates, okay.
I will make that motion to Commissioner Dahlin to the Trailblazer Joint Powers Board.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Commissioner Vetch and seconded by Commissioner Newsom to appoint myself to the Trailblazer Advisory Board,
Joint Powers Board.
Joint Powers Board. Is there any discussion? Does anybody else think it's kind of foolish to have me? No. All right. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I'll say yeah.
That's all I got. I won't take any more time.
All righty. Let's see. Last week, we public health met, the parks meeting met, a mental health met, and then also with Commissioner Vetch, the CARES Act, and we also had a leadership meeting last week too, which is all the commissioners and all the department heads, which is an opportunity to get to know one another and find out what's happening in their departments and come up with some new suggestions and future ideas and that sort of stuff. Mental health, it's still issues with finding beds for residents without having to send them all the way up to North Dakota or way out of state. So that's still something that we're working for with the state representatives. On the next Health and Human Services meeting, which is February 8th, those needs, unmet needs, will be presented to this board, or presented to the Health and Human Services Board to discuss all those different things. And I misplaced my notes from the Parks meeting, so that's enough for me.
All right, the AIS Advisory Committee met, and we had the election of officers. Kurt Forty is the chair, Greg Ekblad is the vice chair. We discussed videos that are out there and, you know, whether there's value with the cost. We also talked about staggering the terms, so there's not, you know, 3 up at the end of or that
Not
they're-
everybody's up
yeah,
at the
not
same
everybody.
time.
So we'd have 3 up at the end of 2022, 3 2023, 3 at 2024. And also the bait compost grant that we have, they have these stations set up so they can, you know, when people get done fishing, they can throw their bait, although worms, because they're an invasive species, are not supposed to go into these bins. But anyway, so we've got 10 to 15 locations that we can check on. They're a 3 by 3 by 3 bin. And we talked about the inspections. They pay $19 an hour, and there's 177 lakes that would kind of qualify in Wright County. They're also doing what's called the AIS Explorer, you know, where we should look for AIS. There's 15 inspection stations needed to inspect 60% of the risky boats in Wright County. So anyway, there's a lot going on with that. They are looking at getting another 3D station for cleaning your boats after being in the water. So they're looking at spots for that. So there's been, you know, quite a bit of use on those stations at the Cedar Lake. So more to come on that.
So regarding those minnow composts, they're guaranteed not to stink?
I'm sure.
Okay, good.
But they actually, I think they have to, you know, get people in to rake them out and that kind of, or, you know, turn them over. So,
Yeah.
you know, they'll eventually be good soil, but there may be some odor involved, yes. And we had our Safe Committees of Wright County meeting and welcomed our new county attorney, Brian Lutz. Some of the things that we discussed, aside from budget, is the participation in the classes for the Right Roads for Teen. It's like a diversion, so they can attend class and not have to pay their fine or have it be on their record, essentially. So that is going through the county attorney's office now. It used to go through the sheriff's office, and we had to change it and change the name. But the Right Road for Teens, they had actually 90 participants this year. They had to do them via Zoom, basically. So that's not, it's down from 130 last year, but it's not significant, so that helps them. And, oh, I'm sorry, that was the Right Road, not for teens. The Right Road for adults was 90 and 130 last year. The Right Road for teens was 59 in 2020, down from 71 in 2019. And they also, the parent-teen classes, I mean, you just look down the list, and most of them were canceled, unfortunately, but they did have 345, so they were able to do the ones through March 11th in person, and then there was virtual ones done in Annandale, and actually one in person in Annandale. So those are down from 943 the year before to 345. And the Sober Cab has been a successful program, but the numbers have steadily gone down. They were like 4,631 back in 2012, and also now we're down to $17.94, but of course, bars were closed for a couple months this year. So anyway, they are, it's a successful program, but a lot of people are arranging for their own rides, so. And then we had our fatality report, so that is always informative. We had 8 fatalities in 2020, and the last 2 years it's been 4. So it's sad to see it go up, but we continue to work on the safety measures through engineering and that kind of thing. And then the last, well, we had safe schools, but I won't get into that because I'm getting the hook. But we welcomed County Attorney Luce on our Annandale Safe Schools meeting too, and it was a lot of discussion about what's going on with trying to involve the students when they're on hybrid or out distance learning. And then, last thing, the Turn is having another graduation on Thursday, January 28th, and the keynote speaker will be a former grad of the Turn. So that's success stories too with that program. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Houston. Commissioner Ketchmark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Planning Commission met last week. Nothing real contested on that. What came out of it that's ongoing is 2 site inspections that'll be coming up. I met with the library board director for some orientation, a couple hours going through the manual, getting ready for tonight's board meeting. That'll be the first one. Sort of conversations with the office heads and administration here, just kind of getting caught up on things. Highway 12 Coalition met. One thing that will affect a fair amount of people, especially District 5 that travel Highway 12, is because of a roundabout being put in and another construction at the same time, Highway 12 is going to be closed for a considerable amount of time in 2020, so stay tuned for detours. And
Putting that roundabout in.
it's going to be in Hennepin, in the area of County Road 90, and then they're going to do some median work in the area of County Road 6 and Baker. So they're going to have some detour. People are going to have to plan for some things. It's in Hennepin, but a lot of our folks are traveling through
Is
there.
that Maple Plain?
Yes, around there.
Okay, so 12 will be shut down in Maple Plain then, for the most part, not
Right, for
in the
about
Wright
3
County.
months or so.
Oh, my.
Wow.
How many months?
About 3.
Oh.
Yeah,
So
takes
Highway
time to put in those
55 will
roundabouts.
get
There's no good reroute there with the park there. There's really no, I mean, you drive there, there's no good reroute around.
They're going to route them north of Delano, kind of toward Loretto area and bring it back that way, I think.
Yeah.
They've done it before. They've got a plan there. They said it's nothing new to them, so they're ready for it. But
So Highway 55 will get a lot of
right,
traffic, more traffic.
that's all I have then, folks.
And people's travel to work will take longer.
Oh, yeah.
Reroute.
All right. Nothing else coming before the board. We are adjourned at 10:12.